To the Lore Reloaded. Haven't been doing this quite often. I need to get back in that reign, though. Hey, check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded for all your fun Star Trek needs or science fiction, really more than anything else. This is going to be a somewhat of a video response, more of a back and forth, just having a conversation. Because it's Mother's Day, a lot of StarTrek.com is about how great mothers are, and I figured we could address one or two of their articles, or at least one, depending on if you guys come or if anyone is really interested in this. If not, we can do some other things. I never know what you guys want to watch. I got to be completely honest. So I try to put all these videos together or do live streams, and I never know what topics you're going to be interested in. Usually I have to just wing it. So I don't know. Let me know if you like it or what you want to see and where we're going to go. I'll give it a couple minutes to see if anyone's interested, and then we can go from there. We got Cormac McSumney in the house. I feel like that is a name similar to someone else who has watched it. Well, for those who are interested, this is going to be coming from StarTrek.com. Hi, you okay? Oh, go. And the website is going to be right here. If I copy it appropriately, that's where you guys can check it out. What's going on, Michael Garrick? Glad to have you on, sir. As always, a pleasure. And yeah, we'll just be going through it. And I don't know. Again, I'll try to do more of these, but I never know what specifically to do. So let me bring up this page right here, move this all the way over here. Hey. And then I don't know, maybe we'll change the topic if you guys don't seem all that interested in it. And boom. All right, so this is going to be somewhat of a response to Shelby Gouliard or Shelby Gouliard. I feel like she's done a couple before. I will go ahead and put this out there, though. You saw me on Twitter a few times. I guess I'll say this before. If you disagree with this person, definitely don't go after them or do anything of that nature. I mean, if you disagree and want to talk to them, that's fine, but never attack someone, because you don't get anywhere when you attack people. You're really just wasting everybody's time, and you're making your side look horrific, if we're all being honest. So, this is going to be from Shelby, as we stated. Her title is Star Trek's depiction of motherhood are changing for the better. So, let me go ahead and change that. Because that title let's see. Let's do this. Here we go. Are mothers in new Star Trek better than original Trek? Because that's more associated with it. I did get a haircut, JJMFDL. I did it specifically for you. All right, Star Trek's depictions of motherhood are changing for the better. Here we go. The following story contains spoilers for Star Trek Picard, so y'all need to be careful because there's going to be spoilers here. This is her talking now. She gave me a smirk and that sideways glance I'm used to as the mom of a preteen. Thanks for helping out the channel, Bryce. Always appreciated. She gave me a smirk and that sideways glance I'm used to as the mom of a preteen. All I was guilty of was looking over at her to see her reaction to the TV. I laughed and she scoffed at me for a bit, then we went back to our couch snuggling. I hope I still have at least a year or two of snuggling left, but we'll see. I'm grateful that Star Trek has been one of the shows my daughter and I get to watch together. We began watching Discovery at my insistence, and it has been incredible to begin introducing my child to the older Star Trek shows I love. The older Star Trek shows? You're watching Discovery and you're saying older Star Trek shows? Okay. The older Star Trek shows I love, as well as exploring the new shows together. It is a joy for me to watch her relate to Star Trek. It's almost like I've been watching my daughter and the world of Star Trek mature simultaneously. Okay. Growing up as a girl in the 90s who loved Star Trek was sometimes awkward, but we've all heard this story. This is the story of a girl who grew up loving Star Trek, who is now a mom watching her daughter discover Star Trek in a very different world. A mom watching a bold new exploration of motherhood in science fiction. All right, so this is where I'm going to start having some issues. Because again, I would argue that the role models that she has probably aren't the best compared to historic role models. But before that, Bryce Hardy, thank you so much for the support. As you guys know, that is the only way I keep the lights on. So thanks so much for helping out the channel. We're continuing on. I've watched my daughter bloom while viewing Star Trek Discovery, arguably one of the most diverse collections of characters in the Star Trek universe. Star Trek Discovery, arguably one of the most diverse collections of characters in the Star Trek universe. I would argue the original series was probably more diverse. The Next Generation wasn't diverse, as diverse, I'd say. Deep Space Nine probably wasn't as diverse either, I don't think. I guess I'd give that to her. I guess Star Trek Discovery was probably a lot more diverse than most other series. I don't know. I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts, but I'll grant that one, that it was probably more diverse in that way. At the end of the day, I think that the original series was the most diverse between all of them. But, you know, anyway. I've watched my daughter bloom while viewing Star Trek Discovery, arguably one of the most diverse collections of characters in the Star Trek universe. It reflects our world, her world. My childhood saw a world filled with hope, and many Star Trek episodes reflected that feeling with a sense of justice and the ultimate triumph of good. But, much like the future of Discovery's crew as they ended their second season with a jump into the unknown, our future now feels so uncertain. That's nostalgia, is what that is. That right there, what our dearest Shelby is feeling is that as a child, things seemed much more hopeful, much better. Things weren't as dire as they used to be. However, when she grew up and she matured, she started to see the man behind the curtain. The 90s were as dire as this world is today. The 80s were as dire than as the 90s were, which were as 70s. And if you want to see, I tell you, you want to see a time where things are completely uncertain, you want to go to a time when you don't know what's going to happen, why don't you try living in 1941 or 1918 and tell me that you think things may be slipping. You want to talk about negative times. Yosef Petrick helping out the channel. Thank you so much. Laura, you deserve all the love as the best dad. Well, thank you, Yosef. I try. I don't think I'm the best dad, but I try. But anyway, and again, thank you for the support, guys. Yes, if you're a YouTuber, you know we're getting hit hard now because all the advertisers have stopped advertising. So I appreciate that. All right, so looking back at this, again, I really do feel like she's putting some nostalgia glasses on there. We can pick times that things were far more important. The Cuban Missile Crisis. You want to talk about unsure of if you're even going to be able to live tomorrow. How about the Cuban Missile Crisis? How about that? Anyway. Continuing on, with a universe that she can... So, back to Shelby, talking about her daughter. With a universe that she can relate to and feeling... With a universe that she can relate to and feeling, but daughter has also had an easier time finding characters to latch onto as well. With a universe that she can relate to and feeling, but daughter, I guess she means my daughter. With a universe that she can relate to and feeling, my daughter has also had an easier time finding characters to latch onto as well. Okay, well, that's just a typo then, I guess. When I asked my daughter who her favorite characters were in Discovery, she said Spock because he has dyslexia like me, and Tilly because she's weird and awkward, also like me. Seeing unique characters who can thrive in the face of uncertainty, using logic, critical thinking, and teamwork is essential for our children to see modeled for them as they grow in the mid-21st century. I have to admit, when they gave Spock dyslexia, there was... I was of two minds. There's no evidence for Spock ever having dyslexia, so it kind of just feels like giving it to him to get social points, which really angers me. I think that if you want to have a character have dyslexia, or you want to make dyslexia something to overcome, then you should put that in another character. But my daughter possibly both of my daughters have dyslexia. One for sure, one quite possibly. And so Spock having dyslexia with something that my daughters could relate to, that kind of hits me in the feels. The one thing I would agree with her on this, though, is Tilly being awkward and still overcoming adversity. I like Tilly as a character, but I think that that's an example of doing it right. So you have Tilly who's awkward, overcoming adversity. She's on the lower rungs and works her way up. And she's her own character. You're not just trying to add this to already known characters, is a way of doing it right. So I would agree with Shelby here in that. I think that's a good point. But Spock, I think that if it wasn't dyslexia, if they gave Spock anything else, I'd be pissed off. Well, not pissed off, but I'd be annoyed because it would just be trying to add a label to him to get social points. So it's hard for me to get mad at that because I relate to it on a personal level, but I don't think it's consistent if I was okay with it, if that makes any sense. And so we'll take a moment, see what you guys are saying. Whoops. Continuum helping out the channel. Hope this helps. Keep at least 4 lights on. That's all you ever need is 4 lights, because that's all there is. There are 4 lights. What's going on? We already said hi to Continuum. Max Matthews, is this that Moms of Star Trek article? This is. Yes, this is that Moms of Star Trek article. That is exactly what this is. All right, continuing on. Shelby writes, Picard also models what it means to lead others, even with a fiercely independent crew. Does he? Does he, though? He's paying them to do what he wants, and they don't always follow him. So I guess what you're saying is a rich white guy can just throw money around and everyone will listen? Okay. Picard also models what it means to lead others, even with a fiercely independent crew, through integrity, love, connection, and forgiveness. Okay. Integrity. So let's look at integrity. He starts a fight. He walks into a place he's not wanted. It says Romulans only. He walks in there, sits down, starts a fight with a senator, gets that senator killed. This crew has lied on his crew. There is a person who will commit murder at least once. And then there's another person so there's 2 people who committed murder. You got alcoholics and much more than that. So integrity, love, connection, and forgiveness, I would agree with. Integrity, not so much. These values often seem absent or minimally present in our world. My daughter and I have even bonded over our agreement that Picard is the best captain. Of course, she's 11 and doesn't quite yet fully understand that my swooning over Patrick Stewart clouds my opinion, but I'm sure it's coming soon. You're letting an 11-year-old watch Star Trek Picard? I was assuming that she was 16 or something. I don't know that I'd let an 11-year-old watch Star Trek. I definitely wouldn't let an 11-year-old watch Star Trek Discovery. That is a bad idea. I don't know that I'd let an 11-year-old watch Star Trek Picard. She's 11 and you're letting her watch baby heads, massive amounts of violence, sex and drugs and... Okay. Season 2 of Discovery and Picard's debut are both full of themes surrounding motherhood. Oh, this ought to be good. A topic rarely covered in the Star Trek universe. Though Dr. Crusher was always a loving mother and became a more complex character as the next generation progressed, her competence and responsibility as a doting mother of a smart and stubborn teen was nothing if not predictable. And, though I imagine teenage boys might be able to relate to this mothering experience, navigating the teen years for a mother and a daughter can look very different. Discovery embraces these nuances through a thorough exploration of Michael Burnham's interactions with her 3 mother figures, Amanda, Gabrielle, and Georgiou. Each unique in their own right, Picard explores motherhood through the trials of Rafi as she navigates motherhood through her addiction, and 7 of 9 as she seeks vengeance for the death of her foster son, Icheb. Okay. We're about to have a lot of fun, good friends. Axeman Titan helping out the channel. Lore, as a film student, you might be interested in the YT channel Nerd Writer 1. He does detailed analysis of films and other topics, and is one of my favorite channels to listen to. I feel like that name is... I feel like I know that name. Nerd Writer 1. All right, I subscribed. I'll check them out in a little bit. Butcher's daughter sees violence? What? A butcher's daughter sees violence. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I think we're about to get some interesting perspectives here. One of the thing about Star Trek, and look, if she uses this to bond, so let me say this. If she uses this to bond with her child, that's fine. It's great even. I'm not going to try to say that the bonding isn't real or that they're not getting something out of it. But for me personally, I think that they are way too adult. I also think that, again, we're using some nostalgia to go into this. I'd be interested in your guys' opinions. Let me know what you think. But I also think that we're looking at it from a very, very... I don't know if I want to say positive or... biased, I would say, light. Now, if we look at previous, so let's look at some of the parental relationships in the past. I don't think Star Trek has ever done parenting well. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that Star Trek has ever really had good mothers or fathers. Captain Kirk, for all intents and purposes, was a absent father because I guess the mom chose not to tell him. And so there really wasn't a way for him to interact. He also liked being with a lot of women, and so quite possibly had more than one child. That's the ongoing thing. Worf did not bond with his son all that well, and in fact sent him away after a while. He was a black sheep, even into Deep Space Nine. I guess Beverly was decent. I mean, to be fair, Crusher had both his father and his mother on that ship. The captain and CEO of the captain and chief medical officer, of the ship. So he had both parents present, but they weren't together. So that's kind of a weird dichotomy. Maybe Cisco and Jake was the only really good parent I saw, and even then, arguably, Cisco was a pretty bad father in some ways. He chose to become religious and go for the profits. He abandoned his son and his son's wishes to do what his gods wanted him to do, which were the wormhole aliens. So I guess DS9's Jake and Cisco is the best, but that's not saying a lot. Of course, this is all my opinion. I'd be really interested in your guys' thoughts. 11-year-old is going to be messed up if she watches Star Trek Picard. I don't think they'll be messed up, but I don't think 11-year-olds should be watching either of those shows. You already have ads playing on this, says Michael Garrick. If I have ads playing on this, it's not because I put them there. I don't have any control over that. I didn't even know that ads could play while this was active. That would have to be something new. Sarek is a protagonist. Spock has to balance human Vulcan tropes. Okay. Yeah, I guess you have Sarek and Spock. Well, Sarek left his son too. I mean, there aren't any good parenting on Star Trek at all. I think we all just realized that. Star Trek is horrific when it comes to parents, I guess. They're just not good at it. Seven and Naomi may have not been related, but they had a fun mother-daughter dynamic. You know, Seven and Naomi was interesting, but I never looked at that as a mother-daughter dynamic. Seven did really treat the Borg children kind of like her own, but I don't know. I just don't think any of it. All right, let's continue on. This is what Shelby has been saying. I've already shared the thread with you guys. For me, it has been validating to watch the love of Michael's mothers, her biological mother, foster mother, and mirror universe adoptive mother, as they all try to guide a smart and stubborn woman along her journey. One of the most touching scenes in Discovery was the reappearance of Michael's biological mother. Imagine watching Gabrielle appear. and the pure joy I felt when my daughter enthusiastically screamed, "It's her mom." Don't ruin my Greek cred, but I might have shed a few tears, especially as the mother and daughter struggled to connect, knowing they may have never seen one another again. So geeks don't cry? Geeks and nerds aren't known for being overly emotional? Okay. Amanda is the much more traditional mother, a comforting and loving presence. She wasn't there. Amanda is the much more traditional mother, a comforting and loving presence with both of our children. So, Amanda. Imagine watching Gabriel appear. Amanda. I guess Amanda and Spock and Amanda and Georgiou. I guess that's a decent. I guess that's decent. I would see. I think she did fine with what she had, having to balance having foster kids and then being married to a Vulcan, which explained that one to me. Well, Spock wasn't a foster kid. I think he was their child. I like Amanda. I guess, yeah. I guess I would say that I agree with her there. I mean, we didn't see a lot of her. That's probably why Amanda isn't destroyed for me. We don't see a lot of her, so they don't have time to really do it. Amanda was Sarek's wife, wasn't it? Maybe I was thinking. Who was Sarek? Yeah, it was Amanda. Let's see what she says about Georgiou. I guarantee. While Mirror Georgiou attempts in her own somewhat evil way to guide Michael in acts that only seem like attempts at kind. Bullshit! Oh, man. Georgiou only ever used Michael. She used Michael in so many different ways. She preyed on the fact that Michael saw Mirror Universe Georgiou as her Georgiou, as the Georgiou from the actual universe, the Prime. And so just yes, I would say that she did care for Georgiou, but I would almost put out that she was grooming Georgiou. Not necessarily for a sexual purpose, but to have her basically be this, basically move her more towards an evil or darker side. I don't think at any point these attempts at kindness were on par with what Lorca was doing. Completely on par with what Lorca was doing, in my opinion. Going back to Shelby. So she's saying to guide Michael in acts that only seem like attempts at kindness. Were I less secure in my parenting, I might be troubled that my daughter insists Mirror Georgiou is one of her favorite characters on Discovery. All mothers try their best to gently steer, or lead their children throughout their life. The morality and ethical lessons of old Star Trek series, coupled with the broad gray areas and themes of the newer shows, can help us to start deep conversations with our kids as they try to find their own moral compass in the world. Every kid is different, but this child is 11. Maybe you have a kid that is extremely advanced for her age. But I can tell you that most kids wouldn't be able to handle a lot of the subjects that are on Discovery. I think that Star Trek, The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager generally does a good job of keeping it to where a child could better cope with it. Sometimes they fail, but a lot of times I don't think they do. I don't even think the original series does that well when it comes to tackling topics that kids can understand. Discovery and Picard definitively don't. They're for adults. They are not kid-friendly. What do you think of Q and Worf as fathers? I already discussed this a little bit, Kingzilla. Worf, I don't think, was the greatest. He didn't really take care of his kid all that much. I know they did try to come together, but ultimately he sends him away. Kid is still messed up into Deep Space Nine. Q... wasn't a good dad either. I don't think he really did all that good. Of course, those are standards, human standards, not necessarily standards by which we would completely base it on. But that's just me. Max Matthews, hashtag I'm with Morin. Even the Federation Georgiou was grooming her, while be it for command, it was grooming. I think that's going a little bit far, Cerstis. I don't know. I don't know that I would call that grooming. I guess in theory. But the Georgiou, the Prime Georgiou, had no problem sticking bombs in dead bodies so that when the enemy comes and collects their dead, it just explodes. So she's not exactly the best person on planet Earth either. I hate to say it, but in spite of his faults, Ducat was a good father. I don't know, Don the Furious. Did you think he was a really good father when he tried to kill Zeal at the beginning, or did you think he was nobody? Did you think he was a real good father when he debated poisoning her, or was trying to force her to do what he wanted? That is unfair. I think he did ultimately become a good father. I think in the end he loved his child, but I think it was more... I do think that even at his best, he was Cardassian first and a father second. But I do think that when dealing with those two, he would try to make it a way for her to be Cardassian, for her to be all right in Cardassia's eyes. But I don't think that he would give up being Cardassian. And so I mean I was joking a little bit. I think towards the end he definitely loved his daughter and he would do whatever he could within the framework that he was. I think one of the flaws of Gul Dukat is that he was a product of his time, and so he couldn't let go of being Cardassian or the Cardassian culture. And the toxic and negative aspects of the Cardassian culture. So I don't know. That's my opinion. Tiki of Doom is laughing because apparently I made them laugh. I enjoy Laura's opinions. Too tired to think much right now. Had physical work in the garden. Very liberating. Well, I'm glad that I can just make you veg. What about Dr. Moga? How was his parents? Dr. Moga. Who's Dr. Moga? Is that Enterprise? Who's Dr. Moga? I don't know. That pulls up TikTok. Oh, I forget that I'm sharing my screen with you guys. I need to not do that. What about Talinki Gimor, who was a pseudo-father to Kira? Takini Gimor? I don't know. Who's Takini? Why are you guys making me look up all this stuff? Hold on. Takini Gimor. Takini Gimor? That was the Cardassian, if I had to guess. I mean, I guess. In the end, it just wasn't fleshed out enough. In the end, it more was... I don't know. I don't think there was enough there. That was Odo's pap. Oh, the doctor who I'm not a huge fan of Odo's doctor either. I don't think they did parenting well, guys. I just don't. Odo's father electrocuted the living hell out of him. I know at first he didn't realize that it was alive or that that Odo was an actual sentient being. But then he still, after realizing he was alive, still did some stuff to him they didn't like. Forced him to do things, utilizing electroshock therapy. I don't know. I don't know specifically. Again, it's not really fleshed out, but I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, if my daughter wasn't doing, or my daughters weren't doing what I wanted them to do, I wouldn't necessarily strap them to a table and throw electrical impulses through their bodies until they did what I wanted them to do. It just doesn't feel like that is, I don't even think that would be a legal thing to do, let alone a moral or ethical thing to do. I look like Ricky Gervais for you, baby. Star Trek isn't really about parenting at all, but it was the best way to not show a trivially wholesome example of good parenting. I would agree that they're going outside the wheelhouse on here. I don't think that was ever the original intent of it. But anyway, let's continue on with Shelby and what Shelby is saying. After Ducat for Father of the Year, says AF. That is one way to look at it. Sure. All right, looking back at Shelby, beyond their roles as mother, Discovery's moms are also relatable to modern moms. Okay, let's do this. Let's do it. Dr. Gabriel Burnham is working hard while being a mom. Dr. Gabriel Burnham is a Section 31 agent. Section 31, which operates outside of the law, is not above killing people, and she specifically was working on time travel in a way to ensure that their enemies would never get a one-up on them. So yeah, she is a hardworking mom in the same way, I guess, if we want to bring this into the real world, a hardworking CIA mom who is not above killing foreign agents of the United States and is trying to find a way to go back in time and stop them if she ever needed to. So if she is a wholesome mom in that way, we got it. She has a career as a research scientist while also raising a daughter with her husband. Okay, so that, yeah, I mean, maybe that's her day job. The family seems to be doing quite well at achieving that work-life balance when the Klingons arrive to mess it all up. This is what I don't like with Star Trek articles. They rewrite things in a wholly biased way that is unreasonable to me. It is on par with people who say that families on the Enterprise, on the USS Enterprise D, was a great idea. This is what holistically, thank you, Darth Oculus, for becoming a YouTube member. It really helps me out. It's the only way I can keep the lights on. It is so dishonest. Like people who say, people who say that it comes off as very dishonest to me. I'm not going to say that it is, but it comes off as very dishonest. This chick was a Section 31 agent. She wasn't above killing people or helping others to get killed to ensure that the Federation stays. Section 31, at its core, is against everything that Starfleet stands for. She was on a Section 31 research base with her kid. She brought her kid to a highly a huge, something that would have a huge target on it if the Klingons ever found out, which obviously it did because the Klingons attacked. It was incredibly stupid to bring her child there. If you want to talk about work-life balance, you have got to do not take your child. Like, let me just put this out there for you. If you ever start working for the CIA or a secret black op organization, and you start doing research, and they have a black base or whatever the fuck it's called, a secret base where all kinds of different technologies and research is going on that the enemy will always want, do not take your child there. Don't bring your child there. That's a bad idea. It's like having children on the Defiant or Voyager or Enterprise. It is a bad idea. Just don't do it. It is not. She is not a scientist. Well, she may be a scientist, but she is not just this white hat scientist that is trying to make life better. She is a Section 31 Black Ops agent. She is at a black site that is trying to make things to destroy other nations should they have it. Bringing her child, this is... Anyway. Shelby. The family seems to be doing quite well at achieving that work-life balance when the Klingons arrive to mess it all up. I'm not sure how balanced you can be with your research lab in your house, just feet away from the dinner table, but that is the new reality for many working moms during the time of COVID-19. Did you watch the episode? I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna be baited. Family can also be more complicated, requiring creative solutions beyond simply balancing work and life. And Discovery hits those notes as well when Georgiou advises L'Rell against juggling a career and a child. When does that happen? Is she Well, let's finish. Okay. This is why I don't. This is why I don't. This is why I don't read these. All right, I'm gonna read the entire paragraph, and then we're gonna address it. Family can also be more complicated, requiring creative solutions beyond simply balancing work and life. And Discovery hits those notes as well when Georgiou advises Laurel against juggling a career and a child. After giving up her child, Laurel goes on to unite and rule the Klingon Empire. In a much later conversation with Tyler, he asks her if she's speaking of protecting their son as the chancellor of his mother, to which she replies that he, of all people, should understand that two truths are possible. To me, no phrase has better described motherhood than two truths. We are mothers, and yet we also strive to be ourselves. It is not an erasure, as motherhood can sometimes feel. It is not an erasure, as motherhood can sometimes feel, but rather an addition to the complex and amazing person you were, and always... Oh, why can't I read? But rather an addition to the complex and amazing person you are, were, and always will be. Even Laurel, who gave up her child, brings that identity in as an addition to her own, adding to her depth of her character rather than diminishing it. Let's talk about Laurel. Let's talk about Laurel for a minute. Laurel is a dishonorable Klingon. She's a dishonorable person. She is a disgrace to the Klingon Empire. Laurel came into power and became chancellor because Starfleet decided to put bombs in Kronos, however you say it, that would explode. And so Laurel got control of that because it was given to her by Starfleet. And she said, all the houses are going to listen to me or I'm going to kill us all. That is probably the most dishonorable thing I've ever seen a Klingon do. So in the culture of the Klingons, she is highly dishonorable. Now, what they're talking about, when Georgiou advises Laurel against juggling a career and a child, that is one of the most, that is on par. This Shelby must work for the Trump administration. I really have to say. Against juggling a career and a child. What Georgiou advised her to do was to, I think Georgiou actually said, kill your child. She didn't, but Georgiou says, you need to get rid of this child because you're not, as long as the child exists, there's going to be issues and you can't be chancellor. So Laurel says, you know what, you're right. So I can either be with my child or I can run an entire empire. Now, that said, I actually think it's a little more complicated and nuanced than that. So the fact that she hides her child away, I don't necessarily think is the worst thing in the world. What I do think probably is pretty horrific is that she either clones her child, or she creates a body duplicate of it and severs the head and kills it and then holds it up in front of the entire Klingon Empire and shows them and says, hey, look, my child's dead, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. I do not think that Laurel is necessarily the hallmark that we want to say. And I really, when Georgiou advises Laurel against juggling a career and a child, that is insane. That is an insane way of positioning what occurred. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying real quick. Whoop. Laurel is a coward and traitor to the Klingon Empire. I agree. Let me say this. Laurel hiding her son away so her son won't get harmed, I can sympathize with and understand. But yeah. Section 31 created the clone. Okay, so it was a clone she was holding. I don't know that I could hold a clone of my dead child in order to stay the head of an organization. So if it actually was a clone, I'm not sure that I could do that. I wouldn't let an 11-year-old watch that, though, just so we're all on the same page here. Personally, I wouldn't let my 11-year-old see that. What's going on, Foxfire 95? Zephram Cochrane was the father of Warp Drive. Does that count as good parenting? It does. The only good parent is Zephram Cochrane. That's confirmed, and that's science. Oh, man. Yep. Triangulum might argue about moms. I mean, if our Triangulum would like to talk about moms, they're welcome to. I see someone is having X issues on Mother's Day week. Is that what it is, Kafka? Am I having X issues? Is that what this is all about? I'm secretly so devastatingly upset that I decided to come on here and have X issues. You nailed it, Kefka. You got me. You got me. F in the chat for me being exposed. Hashtag got 'em. I did get a haircut. People keep talking about that. Best parent is the Four Lights Cardassian. That's true. Kirk's father. We didn't really have a lot on Kirk's father, so I don't know. I don't think we can do that. How did the Klingons find Section 31's base? I'm not sure how, Justice Ag. That's a good point. I don't know if they came upon it or they got information about it. I don't know. Axman says you couldn't do that because you're not a psychopath. Politicians tend towards psychopathy, so they can do horrifying things. I guess so. B'Elanna considered altering her daughter in the womb due to the less than stellar parenting and childhood she had. Yeah, I mean, I don't ever think we got to see B'Elanna as a parent. Did they? They had the kid afterwards, I think. But yeah, I don't know. All right, let's continue on, I guess. Continue reading this. By the way, let me know how you guys feel about going through this and doing this. I want to do more, but I never know what you guys want to watch, and that's just the God's honest. All right. Continuing on with what Shelby has been saying. Before that, though, Kirk should have made Carol get a DNA test. You know, I'll say this. The one thing I think is positive when you look at the future is that because healthcare has been taken care of to such a drastic degree, and because we have good because they have good social services, parenting, like having one parent isn't necessarily as huge an issue as it is now. And I think that you honestly, ironically, and I'm thinking about doing a video about this. I don't know. Ironically, I think that you would have little to no abortions in Star Trek because of how well the medical system is, and because there's no poverty. There's nothing to worry about when it comes to having the child taken care of. So social services would be on par. It's kind of interesting because I think that when you look at it from that standpoint, Star Trek actually speaks against the fact, but does it in a very liberal way. Shows most people are pro-life, but it's because of all the liberal policies. I don't necessarily want to completely break that down, but I think it's an interesting look. We're talking about Bashir's parents. I mean, Bashir's parents, honestly, I empathize with them the most. If I could, if something was up with my kids and they couldn't socially interact, or they had reading problems, or they had like learning disabilities that you could fix, but you'd go to jail, but the kid would be, I would do that every day. You know, the Lore Runner said this, but I completely believe it. If your kid was disabled, like incredibly disabled, and you could fix it through gene therapy, but if you did that, you'd go to jail, but your kid would live free and get to do whatever they wanted in their life every day, I'd make that trade in a second. If for any reason, God forbid, my kid or future kids were ever like insanely disabled and would never have a quote unquote normal life, and I could have gene therapy done to them, but I would spend the rest of my days in jail, but they'd live a normal life. Hell yes. Every day. I don't care. Do it. I would have it done, and then I would call the police and I would do it. I would say, hey, you know what? I just had this done, so I'll spend the rest of my days in a prison, but my child gets to go. Yes, sir. Every day. Yeah. Uh-huh. Absolutely. Would sign up for that in a second. So it's hard for me to call them bad parents when honestly I would do that. Yeah. Continuing on. Here we go. Shelby states, family can be more complicated, requiring creative solutions beyond simply balancing work and life. And Discovery hits those notes as well when Georgiou advises, we already talked about this. Yeah, this got me pretty pissed off. Let's go past that. Most of the mothers I know are multidimensional characters, complex and amazing women in their own right. Even more so now in the time of COVID-19, motherhood is complicated. Our relationships with our children are both strengthened and pulled apart through this time we spend with each other at home, balancing work, school, and attempting to forge bonds. For my daughter and me, Star Trek has been a way to connect, and I will always thank this franchise for showing characters who are moms like us. Okay. I would disagree that I think Shelby is probably an excellent mother, so I don't think she's anything like the mothers that she's presented. The one thing I would say, and here's where people get confused, and I'll finish this after that. Here's where people get confused. The fact that she and her daughter can connect in this way is great. I don't think that any 11-year-old should watch Discovery or Picard, but if she wants to let her child watch Discovery and Picard, that's fine. I'm not telling her how to raise her child. And if her child is able to connect with her on that level because of them watching, then I think that is great. I'm glad that for them, it speaks to them that way. All of this is just about the ideas. I completely disagree with how she looks at, how she positions what occurred. But I'm happy for her, assuming that all this is true. I don't think Shelby's lying. That it worked out that way. So anyway, continuing on. We aren't dead, evil, or perfect, as are so often the portrayals in typical children's media. You mean like in Star Trek Discovery, where you had Georgiou, both versions evil, L'Rell, who holds a dead clone of her child, and who was the other one? Oh, Rafi, who is an addict who left her husband and her child to go and do drugs, and because she couldn't let go of conspiracy theories. I agree that you're probably not evil like that. We're people who try our best to be the best mothers we can while also working to change the world or the galaxy for the better. We are deeply flawed, yet always loving. Like Rafi, we can care, fight, cry, and rule empire. Like Rafi, we can... Flawed and always loving. Rafi wasn't always loving. We can care, fight, cry, and rule empires, just like Georgiou. Georgiou didn't care about anybody. She did fight. I don't remember her crying, but maybe. L'Rell in the same way. Amanda is a good mom. I'll give you that. Amanda and Gabrielle, I think, are possibly... Well, I gave Gabrielle a long... Let me say this. Gabrielle was a Section 31 agent who took her child to a black site. But I do think she cared about her child, and she tried to take care of her. I don't at any point think that she... I don't think she was a bad mom generally. She made some very bad choices, though. Amanda, we see so little of her. I think Amanda was the best mom out of them. After giving a speech to her people to reassert her authority after killing her lover, L'Rell asks her people for a fiercer title than Chancellor. That fiercest of titles she claims as her own mother. Let's read that sentence again, Shelby. After giving a speech to her people to reassert her authority after killing her lover and her child, her lover, L'Rell asks her people for a fiercer title than Chancellor. She asks to be her mother. Stay fierce and have a happy Mother's Day. So are you saying that all mothers should kill their mates? Really? Is that how we want to... I get what she's saying, though. Rafi deserves a 19th chance. She does deserve a 19th chance. I agree. Anyway, that was an interesting article. I don't know, guys. I want to do more stuff like this. I don't know what interests you. I don't think this one was fairly interesting. We didn't really have quite a few people come on. We did have good interaction, but if you're interested or you want to see this stuff, let me know what you would like to see here. Because I'd be interested to continue. I just got to know what you guys want to talk about. Maybe I shouldn't come on and, have all these issues with my, my ex on Mother's Day, because that's definitely what happened. And it wasn't because it's Mother's Day and I wanted to address it. Because as you guys know, I have a ton of issues. It's so bad. It's just horrible. I just want to cry inside. Amanda was the highlight of the Discovery Season 2 for me. She had a few moments that were kind of epic. Yeah, I mean, I liked Amanda. The only thing about that is I just don't think we had enough of her, you know? Good parenting doesn't make for good stories. See, veteran, let me say this. I think that I think that you can have flawed parents, or you can even have good parents and still have stories. I think even in science fiction, I bet if I looked off the top of my head, I'm not sure I could find someone, but if I looked, I think you could find good parents, and good even good single parents, single moms or single dads, that really speak out. Why no pop filter? There is a the hell. Okay, so first off, I don't know why I'm letting myself be baited, but that's a pop filter. It's on top of it. It pops. It stops the s's. Maybe it's not doing a good job, so that's why you're pulling it out, but it is a pop filter. I don't have a fixed schedule. I need to come up with one. Discovery's main problem is that Michael Burnham focus. Yeah, they want to do a new perspective, but when your only main character is unlikable and a Mary Sue, it can make it hard. Mary Sue is overused. I don't like using that term anymore because it generally doesn't mean anything. But I'd agree that it was a mistake. Adama in Galactica is a good single parent. I don't think Adama was a good parent at all in Battlestar Galactica. In the slightest. Lost in Space parents. I haven't watched enough Lost in Space. Maybe it is. You know, if I had a fixed schedule, I think more people would come too. I really just need to get down with that. Honestly, what I do is I put videos first, and so sometimes videos get in the way, and I don't have the time to do it. I don't know. All right, guys. Well, I will try to do better. I'll probably have one next time. I'll be doing a I got that charity thing coming up too, so watch out for that. But with that out of the way, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, guys. I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.